So all my DIY people out there who want to understand how to heal yourselves through your own mind, just listen, just hear me out. All right, first, what you need to understand is that there is a relationship between your brain's wavelength and your frequency. The lower the wavelength, the higher the frequency. High frequency is associated with elevated emotions such as bliss, freedom, love, joy, appreciation. You can see this very high frequency that's happening there. Low frequencies are associated with lust, pain, victimization, suffering, shame, stuff like that. And again, the relationship is high frequency, low wavelength. We're going to look at wavelengths now. Wavelengths, when I refer to that, I'm talking about brain waves. Basically, this chart is illustrating the number of peaks per second. This is a high wavelength, which is associated with those low frequencies like fear, lust, shame, etc. As your brain waves decrease, you go into theta and delta. If you're in delta, then you can experience bliss and satisfaction and joy and love in those things. Now, you get that through meditation. Meditation takes you from your conscious mind, aka your thinking brain, to your delta, which is less thinking and more like of a program or of habit, or your subconscious mind. The autonomic nervous system is interesting because those are the systems in your body that enable you to breathe without thinking, your heart's beating without thinking. But if you notice, if you're in a guided meditation, you're asked to focus on your breathing. You're asked to acknowledge your heartbeat, and you are able to slow your brain waves down so that you can really tap into your whole operating system that is your body. The healing comes when you are in the state of bliss, freedom, love, all those high frequency things. Because if you think about it, if you're in a beta state, when you have crazy brain waves, which is again associated with low frequency, what are you doing to yourself? You are thinking yourself to death. You are stressed out. You are constantly in a survival state, fight or flight, which causes stress and leads to disease. Stress is directly linked to disease. So, if you picture the opposite, if you're not in stress, then you're up here. So if stress causes disease, then bliss leads to healing. That has to be true. And when people talk about how they are genetically predisposed to certain disorders or disease and stuff like that, I mean, you're predisposed, but you trigger that gene when you're in a stressful environment. It's like, what do you call it? Nature versus nurture. The nature, you can have all those genes in your nature, but if it's nurtured out of you, meaning that stress is triggering your cancer gene or your diabetes gene, then it just happens. Anyway, Dr. Joe Dispenza, his work is centered around helping people heal themselves by basically switching some of their genes on and others off. And you could do that with the power of your mind.